Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning. It's February 11th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by Life Wallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt, we're throwing everybody a curveball, a little late with Good Morning CaneSport today, so we'll make this, a little bit of a Friday morning weekend edition, and a lot to talk about as always. The two coordinators unveiled themselves to the media, and we got a glimpse really of what elite guys look like, in my opinion. I'll start with Josh Gattis. I mean, just sitting there listening to him for 20 minutes, how eloquent he is, how well-spoken he is, how much sense everything that he says makes. You could see that this is a guy that is going to be a massive, massive high impact hire for Mario Cristobal, is going to make an impact up and down the program, up and down the building. The kids are going to love him. You can just see where it's going. And I think it's good days ahead here in 2022 for the Miami Hurricanes offense.
I mean, he seemed like he had no clue. I don't know if the offense will be any good. So, yeah, he was really good. He was really good. I mean, I'm super impressed by both these guys. They both talked, him and Kevin Steele. And, I've talked to you about this before. I don't know if we've talked about this on Good Morning CaneSport, but look, we've talked to numerous head coaches over the years and numerous assistant coaches over the years. And there's some coaches that just have this presence where, as a reporter, no matter how seasoned you are, you're almost nervous to ask a question, to the point where you want to make sure you ask it the right way, because you don't want to look like an idiot in front of a guy who you honestly have a lot of respect for, because he just has that presence about him. And I'm not going to mention any names, but in the recent seasons, I mean, Mark Richt was one of those guys, by the way, but there's other coaches who have been around recently where it's like, you just ask whatever. I mean, you're not even worried about it. Those guys, it's almost like talking to your buddy in a bar, it's not that presence. And don't fool yourselves into thinking players don't recognize the greatness of the presence. One of the first times I really, recognized it in if any of you have ever gone to a Coach K press conference, for instance, with Duke, I mean, he commands a room. That's what I'm talking about, to get it away from Miami. There's guys at Miami that do that too, but him, Pat Riley, these are guys where they can just look at you and you melt, and honestly, Josh Gattis was a little more like that than Kevin Steele, but both of them have a little bit of that in them. And players respect that. Players understand that. It's almost an unwritten thing. And so I don't care what they say yesterday. Words don't matter. We haven't seen anything from them yet at Miami. But what you can glean just from them talking for the first time is they have that call it whatever you want. They have that presence. They have that thing that players will respect, because as media, I immediately could tell, oh my gosh, I got to make sure I asked this question the right way. This is a guy who has a presence about him, and you don't want to get that look where you wind up melting, even on a Zoom call through your computer screen.
And then you get the contrasting style of Kevin Steele, the 60-plus-year-old vet guy that's been through a lot of battles in college football at a lot of big-time schools. One of the more respected, really, assistant coaches in college football, and no nonsense. Very, very, I would almost call it military-like, very straightforward. And he talked a little bit about his plans for the Canes defense. He's going to run the 4-3 as we expected. And I think the difference is that Kevin Steele's got a little bit more work ahead of him than Josh Gattis. The Miami's much more of a project on defense than it's going to be on offense this year. On offense, there's going to be playmakers all over the place. If Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal can get the offensive line playing well, the offense is going to score a lot of points. You got quarterbacks, you got running backs, you have receivers, you got maybe the best tight end room in the country. You got so much to work with. on the offensive side of the football. And I'm sure Josh Gattis is kind of salivating a little bit now that he's here and he sees, they're in the fourth quarter program. He gets to see these guys running around. And I'm sure he feels pretty good about, what he's got to work with going into the 2022, starting with spring practice and then, of course, into the season. Steele's got more work ahead of him, Matt. And but we could get a feel for the approach that he's going to bring to it.
Yeah, and I already know what's going to happen the first time that Steele's defense doesn't do well. Someone's going to bring up, stop the steal, you got to stop the steal, because he can't do it. He can't get the job done. Someone's going to start talking about that. I already have no doubt about it. I wish he had a different last name. I'm going to talk to him about that next time I see him, if he can maybe change it to something a little bit better. But
will they bring back the steel curtain, you think?
Well, that's what I mentioned that the other day. Yeah. That makes sense in Pittsburgh, right? Because they do produce steel. I don't think they produce steel. If you change his last name to, Stone Crab, one word, something like that would make more sense. The Stone Crab defense, I would get on board with that for sure. But I'll let him decide his own new last name. So anyway, yeah, he's been around the block a few times. He certainly knows what he's doing. And the interesting thing about both him and Gattis is you mentioned the 4-3, they're not locked into a 4-3 or a spread or this or that. They do all different kinds of things, which I love, because otherwise it's so easy to game plan for a team like that. We've seen so many times in the past where a team will come into Miami and Miami players will say, wow, they caught us off guard. We'd never seen that on tape. And then it turns out, well, 4 years ago, that coordinator had seen that or run that and, something like that. These are the guys that now will bring that to the other team. When's the last time we saw a Miami opponent say, geez, we'd never seen that on tape until the first wrap of the game, until the first series of the game? We haven't heard that from an opponent. I can't remember in how many years, and I certainly have some short-term and long-term memory issues, I guess, at this point. Some of it by design, because I haven't liked what I've seen from the Miami Hurricanes over the last 20 years. But I'm very excited to hear opposing offensive defensive coordinators talk about how they were out-schemed at the beginning of a game. That'll be nice to hear for once.
Yeah, no doubt. And as an extension of our stories on the two new coordinators that are on the website right now, we also take a look at whether Josh Gattis is going to use Jalen Knighton as a feature back or as a complementary back. And Matt, you got Henry Parrish coming into the program as a transfer. You've got Javonte Citizen coming into the program as a freshman who many think is going to be an elite player at Miami. I personally don't think there's a need for Jalen Knighton to be a feature back. I think Jalen Knighton is best used as a complementary back. I thought he was running up the middle way too much last season, and he's not going to have to do that as much this year. And I think that's going to make Jalen Knighton a better player because he's not going to get beaten up. He should be fresh most of the time. And when I look back at Oregon last year and the way that they used a kid by the name of Travis Dye, who is a very similar type of running back, really, to Jalen Knighton. And I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of planning out snaps and how you're going to use the different guys. I think the best thing for Miami would be for Parrish and Citizen to become workhorse backs and Jalen Knighton to be the guy that you put in for a play or two here or there and try to hit him for some big plays.
I mean, you do know Parrish and Knighton are the exact same height and weight, but okay.
But Parrish is a little bit more of a thicker, more durable back, I think, at this point of his career.
Outside of that, I will say, this is just research, okay? Oregon's not calling the plays at Miami. Oregon's not making the decisions on who's going to start at running back and what the plan is going to be at running back. I assume Mario Cristobal, although he's from Oregon, will let the new offensive coordinator, who's very highly respected.
The head coach is supposed to work with the coordinator on things like that. Those are things that they discuss together. It doesn't have to be autonomous. I mean, if a good head coach sits down with his two coordinators every week and they talk through the game ahead and they plan accordingly. And, I think I got to believe that Mario is going to be involved offensively in personnel usage and strategy week to week.
I'm going to pretend you didn't just interrupt me and continue with my thought. Josh Gattis, in every single year he's ever been an offensive play caller, has never had a running back as a third down change of pace back or a starting back, the primary back or the secondary back that's weighed under 215 pounds. That's just a fact. That's in 4 years. He's never had a starter or major backup running back that weighed under 215 pounds. Mario Cristobal likes a powerful offensive line with a speedy, powerful back behind him. Jalen Knighton, everyone loves Jalen Knighton. I do too. He's great in space, but he also only averaged 2.1 yards after contact, something like that last season, which is just really abysmal, honestly. And that's not something that is going to be missed on tape. When, Josh Gattis said the first thing he did was look at tape from last year. He's going to notice that, Jalen Knighton, Josh Gattis will find ways to get Jalen Knighton the ball in space, but it will not be running between the tackles. And if you're not running between the tackles, you're not going to be the starting running back in his offense or in Mario Cristobal's offense. That's just a fact. So unless somehow magically Jalen Knighton shows them all of a sudden that he has this amazing lower body strength and can break through all these arm tackles and push guys backwards, I would fully expect a Trevante Citizen to be the starting back, which is why I've been predicting that. It would not surprise me. There's a reason Trevante Citizen came to Miami when he could have gone elsewhere, despite Miami having a returning running back who had 1,000 total yards almost and 13 touchdowns. Despite Miami, I believe, had already bought in Henry Parrish, correct, by then as a transfer, right?
Mm-hmm.
By signing day. Despite two true freshman running backs who were going to be in their second year, one of whom played a decent amount of snaps last year and is a powerful back in Thaddeus Franklin. He did it because I'm sure he got some decent assurances that, hey, you're not coming in here to sit on the bench. You're not coming in here to just watch and learn in year one and maybe year two. You're coming in here because we don't have a running back like you. And we're bringing in a coordinator who's going to use a running back like you. Me as the head coach, I've always liked a powerful offensive line. And yeah, I've used lighter running backs, but believe me, I don't think Mario Cristobal did that by design. I think he did it because that was necessity. I don't think they had anyone better at that point who was heavier. I think Mario Cristobal, if he had the choice, would use a 215-pound running back who has speed and power. That's what Alabama does. That's what Mario Cristobal wants to do at Miami. Now at Oregon, they didn't have the availability of a guy like that. Now with Trevante Citizen, they will. They will. This is what he does. This is who he is. So I think even though he's not coming to the fall, spring practice, great. Enjoy spring practice. But, man, I think Citizen's going to be the guy to watch out for in the fall.
Yeah, we'll see. It might be hard for a true freshman to take on that type of load right out of the gate in September. Parrish should be about 195 going into next season by the time he's done with Aaron Feld's strength and conditioning program this offseason, maybe even 200 pounds. So I think he'll be built for
by the way, remember, everyone says bigger, stronger, faster. Yeah, because what you're saying is not correct.
But when you add 15 pounds for 5 minutes.
Because when you add 15 pounds in 3 months, Gary, you get a little slower. It's got to be a slow progression.
He's 190 right now. He's not going to add 15 pounds, but he'll add 5 to 10 in this strength and conditioning program, I'm pretty sure, and it'll be muscle. And I think he'll be ready for an increased load. Knighton can then factor in as a change of pace, and then Citizen, his load will depend on what he can handle coming in as a true freshman. But he's going to walk onto campus probably at 220 and be like what Matt was talking about when he was speaking before he started interrupting me. But anyway, so when you put all three of them together, and then of course, we'll see what kind of spring Thad Franklin has. Cody Brown too. I'm not overly optimistic that either one of those guys is going to end up with a role, but they will get a chance to compete in spring and show the new staff and running backs coach Kevin Smith what they're capable of doing. And I think the bottom line, Matt, is that Miami's in good shape at running back, it seems. And considering that Mario Cristobal's only been here for a few months and they've only been able to recruit 2 guys, that's a good thing. But you're seeing the impact already at the running back position as much as anywhere of better recruiting that shoots higher maybe than what Miami's been doing in the past. All right, other stories on the website today. We got a couple recruiting stories for you on 2023, guys. Both were offered by the previous staff and now are being re-offered by the new staff. That's TJ Metcalf from Pinson, Alabama. He initially was offered by T-Rob and now has been offered by the new staff. And then defensive lineman from Miami Palmetto, Andrew Rumpf, same thing, offered by now re-offered Talavea. So interesting in that regard. And then also on the website today, there's a 3-2-1 column where I take a look at some different topics that are impacting the Miami program these days, the new coordinator hires. I also talk a little bit about the NIL situation. state of Florida with not allow the universities to get involved in the NIL prospects of their players. That's going to change, okay? And Florida State right now is feeling especially victimized because they're absolutely totally rattled up there about what John Ruiz is doing here with Life Wallet and these Miami players getting NIL deals. And they also have a very close proximity to the state legislators that that can change the Florida laws. So Matt, you put all that together, Florida State feeling like they're falling behind, state legislators right there in Tallahassee, many of whom I'm sure go to Florida State football games and are fans. And the fact that, you know, Miami is gotten out to a big head start in all this, you put all that together, and I think it's fairly safe to assume that that Florida's NIL laws are going to be changing at some point.
I mean, okay. I don't know what I'm talking. Like, fine. It doesn't affect Miami. I don't care what happens at FSU or Florida.
It won't affect Miami anymore. Yeah, because Miami's off and running.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to Miami. So I cover Miami, Gary. If FSU wants to complain about it and get state laws changed, it's not going to slow Miami down or speed Miami up. Miami's already got this thing going. It's FSU's own problem. They didn't, you know.
Yeah.
Poor FSU, those guys.
But it's a pertinent issue, no doubt, because the longer that those guys stay behind with the way John Ruiz has gotten this thing going, Miami jumps ahead, and then the Moss brothers are getting ready to jump into the fray too. Dan Lambert tells me that he's going to continue doing things with NIL, raising more money. So Miami's going to be rocking in NIL. There's no doubt about it. All right.
The truth is, I mean, your whole thing about the whole premise of the school helping facilitate the NIL deals, if you don't think that's already being done at a school like FSU, I mean, they just maybe don't have the same level of boosters as programs like Miami that just want to step up to the plate, you know, because believe me, if John Ruiz and Dan Lambert and the Moss brothers were in Tallahassee, I mean, it wouldn't matter. You know, FSU, I'm sure, wants the NIL deals done. I'm sure behind the scenes they're reaching out to whoever their boosters are up there, you know, wordchant.com, for instance, to ask them for money, whoever it is. And it's just, they're just not stepping up to the plate. And that FSU program's been so bad that maybe that's hurting them a little bit, you know, whereas Miami's got this sense of excitement and the fan base and the boosters are so excited right now. They want to help and they want to make Miami a great program. Maybe at FSU, that's a slight problem right now is the perception and just people throwing away their money for what they feel is not going to be a good program anyway. Who wants to be associated with a program that's awful?
Yeah. All right, before we move on to our next subject, let's take a visit with our friends at Life Wallet.
I will be your shield in the fiercest battle. I'll defend you.
Yeah.
Hey, my name is Cleveland Reed, and I play offensive line, and my job is to protect. I protect my family with Life Wallet. How about you?
Of course, I got Life Wallet. It's the best way to protect my family.
Long as we go together, we'll die, we'll never be a light. Couldn't let the darkness try you ever. Truth in my word, you I lie to never.
To protect you and your family, get Life Wallet now.
Life Wallet. Saving time, saving lives.
Love Andres Borregales. All right. So, Matt, before we head into the weekend, I'm going to use the B word that for some reason rattles some people. I don't know why. And that's basketball. And coming off the big victory this week over Georgia Tech, the Canes basketball team has a huge game at Wake Forest on Saturday. And, Matt, this is season shaping, no question about it. I mean, Wake Forest right up there at the top of the ACC standings with the Canes. It's a stampede to the ACC tournament that'll be in New York in March. You know, right now, if you look at the ACC standings, you got Duke and Notre Dame sitting there at 10-3, Wake Forest at 10-4, Miami at 9-4. So if Miami can pull the upset on Saturday and somehow win that game, they surge into the 10-win category with the top three and are right back in the mix to win the regular season ACC title. So we'll see what happens on Saturday, but obviously a huge game for the Canes. So that's going to do it for today. Everybody have a great weekend. You too, Matt Shodell.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching Good Morning CaneSport. We'll come back at you on Monday with more. See you next time, everybody.